Good day everybody, and what a wonderful week it was at Gamescom this year, especially for Bannerlord fans. With single player as well as multiplayer content, interviews and that release date we have been waiting for years, I can say that I am happy that I got the chance to play the single player demo and interview Armagan for an astounding 40 minutes of time. In this analysis, I will go over the most interesting and informative perks that I have seen by hovering over them in the character menu at the Gamescom single player demo. I know the video is long, but I really couldn't shorten up this huge amount of information. Since you very probably know me from there and use the platform yourself, I have already prepared a discussion thread on Reddit to talk about all of the things mentioned in the video, so feel free to join it in the description. One more thing. I had the chance to talk to some pretty cool people at the Tale Worlds booth at Gamescom, such as Callum, the community manager. So I got my hands on some multiplayer beta keys, and I will be giving them away. To see all the details and how to enter the giveaway, just check the description of this video. Last but not least, I am working at a full and complete list of all the skills and talents that were available in the Gamescom single player demo. It is taking quite some time, but still, I'm at a good point and I will release it in a few days. I remind you to hit like, subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay tuned for more updates. My next videos are going to be about the policies that you can try to vote for in-game in your faction, about the interview with Armagan, about the interesting stuff I found in the encyclopedia in-game, and much more. Without further ado, I really hope that you will enjoy this video analysis. I need to say something before we even get at the skills and perks. One thing that I have noticed is that the skill description is sometimes very precise. I think one can say too precise. What I mean with that is that an example of this can be found in the scouting skill, telling the player that its level will affect how able he will be to spot enemies in battles. For example, across the valley from a flash of light on spear points or a dust cloud. The same goes for the medicine skill description, which reads knowledge of how to staunch bleeding, to set broken bones, to remove embedded weapons and clean wounds to prevent infections, and to apply poultices to relieve pain and soothe inflammation. Well, that's specific. Since I don't think the game will cover all of these complicated mechanics, because then it will become Surgeon Simulator 2020, I think that it is just a very fancy description of what it would mean in real life. If this is true for these two skills, then I can imagine that we should take everything we find in the descriptions of other skills, not perks, careful, there is a difference there, with a grain of salt. Then, of course, I won't analyze the perks that tell us something like plus 10% damage or plus 10% speed with one-handed weapons or stuff like that, because it's something obvious and irrelevant. We will instead go for the perks that tell us something interesting and confirm a gameplay mechanic we weren't sure of. Regarding what I said before about taking the skills descriptions with a grain of salt, I would start with the riding skill description, which says the ability to control a horse, to keep your balance when it moves suddenly or unexpectedly, as well as general knowledge of horses, including their care and breeding. Now, I don't want to jump out of joy, but if breeding really is a thing in the game, it will make many people happy. I've seen perks that actually increase your horse production in horse farms drastically, and maybe that's intended with breeding in the skill description, but maybe again it's just a fancy description. The rest of the description also makes me think about if it's really possible to lose balance if moving and turning too quickly, but this mechanic isn't in the multiplayer beta that I could try thanks to the key I got at Gamescom. So I don't really think that this is going to be a mechanic in the game. Maybe in the future, who knows. Once we have drawn these lines, we can go on and analyze the perks that were interesting. The next thing I will talk about is a gameplay mechanic which wasn't in native Warband, but was in Viking Conquest DLC as far as I recall. It's the ambush mechanic. Since many people were confused about how it worked in the forums, I hope they will get it right and more transparent this time. So let's take a look at the perks that reveal this to me. The first perk is the Ambusher perk, of course, unlockable at level 110 in the scouting perk tree. It says, can find better ambush spots. If any of you has ever played games of the Total War series, you know what this means. It's time to ambush and, of course, to get ambushed as well. But at least this next perk called Farsighted increases the chance to avoid ambushes. But still, can find better ambush spots means that there will probably be precise spots on the map, and also meaning that we won't be able to prepare an ambush anywhere we like on the map. I can imagine it being possible only in forests and other places with enough cover. But I might be wrong, since a large portion of the map will feature desert, plains, mountains and so on, which are not very good places to prepare an ambush if we follow this logic, but they often are in real life. So will we be able to toggle modes and enter kind of ambush mode, where we see the ambush spots marked on the map? But moreover, what kind of advantage will the ambusher have? Will you be able to deploy your troops before the battle while already seeing the enemy formations, such as in the Total War games? And will the ambusher have a higher morale, or maybe the ambushed guy having a lower morale? And one thing I wanted to add, since we're talking about morale, I found this perk called Swift Regroup that decreases the disorganized state duration by 50%. This means that, again, such as in Total War, we will have a disorganized state where our troops are routing and trying to flee the battlefield, maybe because their morale is too low. Or maybe I'm wrong and this happens just after a cavalry charge or something shocking. And the leadership skill also confirms that rallying your troops while they're routing increases the amount of XP you get in that skill tree. Meaning that it is possible to rally troops. Again, these are very interesting news and questions we're asking here. But let me know in the comments what you think about these mechanics and about all of this stuff. Maybe also write in the Reddit post that I have talked about in the beginning, that you can find in the description. Following down the path of strategy, tactics, leadership, ambushes and stuff like this, we will talk about the Hammer and Anvil perk, which is similar to many other perks of the strategy perk tree, which gives your cavalry 50% more damage to archers in simulations. Now, I don't know what these simulations are, but something tells me that we will be able to test our strategies in friendly battles where you won't really lose any soldier if they die. Maybe it will happen inside of your own clan or kingdom to improve your skills as a commander on the battlefield. We will get an advantage in simulation of 6.0% every time we level up the skill. It's probably a damage bonus, but I'm not sure. And, as you can see in the screenshot, it is also mentioned in the tactics skill description in the how to learn section that we will be able to fight simulation battles and get XP in the skill. This could make for a very interesting gameplay mechanic, which allows us to test our skills, try some formations, tactics, and so on and so forth. Since I've mentioned Total War before, there's another mechanic which is really similar to that game series, namely the one step ahead perk, which allows you to place your troops before all battles. This will give you a huge advantage, as you can try to go closer to advantage points, place your troops, choose your formations, and do everything before the battles even start. And I can imagine this happening in a deployment zone where you won't really be able to actually spawn right in the face of your enemy, but still, it will give you a huge advantage. One perk that really caught my attention was the Foreign Crafts perk that is to be found in a crafting skill tree at level 60. It says you can use parts from other cultures while crafting. Well, not only this confirms that crafting is still in the game, as the skill itself, but also because of how interesting it is. I will talk about the crafting a little bit more in my video about the interview with Armagan, since he confirmed that they are deepening the system and it's going to be very rich. The reason this perk is interesting is because it means that in the beginning we will only be able to use parts from our own culture. Later on, by unlocking this perk, we can craft our beloved Mameluke, Empire Knight, Sea Raider, Sword, Spear, Scimitar. No, just kidding, but we will sure see some badass looking combinations out there, I'm sure of it. Let's take a quick look at two very interesting perks. The first one is Concealed Blade that is unlocked at level 110 in the Roguery skill tree, and it says can use any one-handed weapon in civilian mode. Interesting. The next one is the Concealed Carry perk, which is to be found in the Throwing skill tree. and it says use any thrown weapon while entering settlements as a civilian. Both of these perks are very similar and they are both unlocked at level 110 of the respective skill tree, but the first one is unlocked in the roguery skill tree, while the second one is unlocked in the throwing skill tree, which is easier to reach in my opinion, because you won't have to do any risky actions which can be considered to be bad in the roguery skill, but instead just practice your throwing in battle. I also remind you that you can actually change stance when using a throwing weapon and use it as a melee weapon as well, as you can see in this clip that I have recorded in the multiplayer beta. So you might want to go for the throwing weapon instead if you don't want to risk being cogged while doing roguery actions, and use the throwing weapon as a melee weapon as well. But all in all, will this mean that we will be able to maybe assassinate lords and kings and people of this caliber? One thing you may have forgotten that I'm sure of is that the Bannerlord team has told us about backstreet gangs and criminals in towns, so you will probably be able to fight them and use these concealed weapons against them, or maybe to free a prisoner while doing some rogue actions in a castle. I can bet this one is going to make you excited. Let's look at the Imperial Fire perk of the engineering perk tree that you can unlock at level 60. It says, can build fire version of siege engines. Well, doesn't that sound sweet? The fire version has got to have some kind of advantage to it, or else you wouldn't even have this perk in the game. So what will it be when we are besieging? Will we be able to deal more damage to walls, especially wooden walls, because well, fire and wood, you know what I'm talking about. What if we will be able to set them on fire? Will this also be possible with the enemy troops? Let's also think from another perspective, not only from the attacker's perspective, but also from the defender's perspective. Will this deal heavy damage to siege engines attacking us, because, well, they're usually made out of wood, and also maybe wreak havoc amongst troops in siege towers? And again, will the fire spread between the troops? These are a lot of questions, but still, one thing is sure, if this mechanic is in the game, it has to have some kind of an impact on our gameplay, and I am eager to see what it will be. Just in case, before you get triggered, I wanted to say that I will talk about all of the things related to successors, children, seduction, courtship and stuff like this by referring to a her, just because it's from my perspective and I will most probably play a male character. But still, the same exact things will be possible for a female character. So now let's jump to something that a lot of you wanted to know about children and succession and stuff like this. It's about the successor perk that can be found in the charm skill tree at level 160. It says that you will have a higher chance to get a child, namely of 30%. Well, the first one, this skill, confirms that having children is based on a chance and that it won't be 100% guaranteed that you get one at every attempt. We don't know how this will work yet, if you have to interact with your spouse and how often you can try in a given period of time, if you have to wait for a cooldown or something similar. But still, now we know that it's based on a chance and it's not guaranteed. The next perk was a question I actually forgot to ask Armagan in the interview that I will publish, but it got answered by this perk. Children under care gain 20% more skills. If you look at it, you will notice that it's unlockable at level 260, which is a lot. But it says that it increases the amount of skill they actually gain. So they will still gain some levels and skills, even without the perk. But still, the most important thing is to know that children will level up while growing up, and that we will be able to somehow spend these points later or while they're growing up. Well, before even thinking about successors and children, you have to fight your way through the competition and make Kurt to get that girl or get that man, depending on who you play. Of course, in the same perk tree, namely that of the charm skill, we can find a courtship perk, improving our success chance at open romance. This is something we are already familiar with from warbands, but what if our interest is for a lady we shouldn't be able to get? Probably from another faction, already married, or who knows for what reason we can get her. Well, then the seduction perk is something you might go for, giving you a better success chance at illicit romance. I'm really curious to see how this will work and what exactly you can do to get the attention and the care of that girl. Last but not least, many of you want to play as a merchant and trader, or at least profit from that the most, so I will talk about the trade skill and perk tree right now. A thing that has been confirmed by Armagan in his interview with me is that we will be able to own caravans. It is also confirmed by the description of the how to learn section of the trade skill, which says operate caravans. Armagan also told me that we will own, but not directly use and move the caravans around, so no micromanagement from our side, just automated caravan action. At one point we will have to choose between the caravan owner skill, earning us 30% more gold from the caravans we own, and the trained caravaner skill, which makes our own caravans stronger to bandits. I guess it will depend on how well we can keep the area clean of bandits and from the area itself, since some areas in the game are going to be more infested from bandits than the others. I can imagine this because it was similar in Warband. Next off is the Know the Market perk that marks items prices relative to their average price, allowing us to understand if a good is cheaper or more expensive in the place we are buying or selling it. Again, very useful. The last thing related to this is the Track Profit perk, which marks your profits. I don't know what that really means, but I guess that we will have a better overview of our spendings and earnings. A little bonus in this perk tree is the Conversion perk, which gives us the possibility to recruit from our prisoner roster, but comes very late in the game. This is similar to a perk that is instead to be found in the Roguery perk tree, the Merry Men perk, making us able to recruit bandits instead of slaying them. Again, unlocked very late at level 260 of the Roguery skill. The video has come to an end, but don't close it yet, or you will miss out on how to participate to the giveaway of 5 multiplayer beta keys. You have made it! Congratulations! A little more than 15 minutes of eye bleeding, looking at my inexperienced editing skills, and hearing all the mistakes I've probably made. Before I tell you how to participate to the giveaway for the beta keys, if you liked the video, then press the like button. It doesn't cost you much and really, do it! Or you are going to forget about it, and then you will remember not doing it when lying in bed, and you won't be able to sleep. Just kidding. Subscribe if you want to support me and hit the notification bell to get notified as soon as my new videos about policies, the encyclopedia, and the interview with Armagan will be released. To participate to the giveaway of 5 beta keys, just comment this video, so that I will be able to pick the 5 winners. The winners will be picked randomly, and I will announce them in the beginning of the next video. Feel free to write a suggestion for my future content, funny comments, and whatever you feel like writing. Remember that feedback is very important to me. Thank you very much for watching, stay tuned for future videos, and have a wonderful week.